Hi, Brett. Can you hear us?
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're good.
Awesome.
So, Brett, did you want to make a short presentation at all or just be available for questions?
How about a 15 to 20-second introduction?
Okay, sounds good. I'll
Great.
give I'll give a brief staff intro, and then we'll turn it to the Planning Commission chair, and he'll call on you.
Sure. And it would be less than 30 seconds, just a little hello and thank you for having Maverick in town.
You ready?
Yes.
I'm going to call to order a Planning Commission meeting of August 27, 2020. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Flicker? Here. Commissioner Britton?
Here.
Commissioner Chapman?
Here.
Commissioner Sears?
Here.
Vice Chairperson Jenkins?
Here.
Chairperson Durling?
Here. Now would you join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? Begin. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Do we have anyone out there that has indicated they'd like to talk to the Planning Commission about a non-agenda item, you know?
We can check really quickly.
Can they hear us?
And Mr. Chairperson, just to state for the record, I have not received any written communication for this entire meeting.
I couldn't understand that.
Has not received any.
We don't?
I have not received any written public comments for this meeting at all.
I have a little hard of hearing out of this left ear, so when you talk, just shout.
Okay.
All right. I hereby open the public hearing, and item 1 is Maverick Inc. finding of public convenience. Staff?
Thank you, Commissioners. On February 27th, the Planning Commission approved a new 6,000 square foot Maverick convenience store with 10 gas pumps and 4 truck pumps and a truck scale at 350 Oro Dam Boulevard. On March 26th, this commission also approved a sign variance to 85 feet. On May 5th, the City Council denied an appeal of this project, confirming the Planning Commissioner's decisions. Staff did not then include a finding of convenience or necessity, which was number 9 in the required findings for alcohol sales, because we had no indication that there was an overconcentration. Henceforth, we will check for any new use permits to see if there's an overconcentration. Since then, the Division of Alcohol Beverage Control, ABC, informed us that the Maverick permit couldn't be issued by them because there is an overconcentration in Census Tract 28 of Type 20 licenses, and that's for off-sale beer and wine. Census Tract 28, there's a map in your staff report, but it basically includes downtown, it includes Lincoln Boulevard, everything north of Oro Dam Boulevard and Feather River Boulevard, which constitutes almost all of our establishments that sell alcohol. ABC approval, a prerequisite for that is for this commission to issue a letter which is a finding of public convenience and necessity. Staff recommends approval of that letter and the findings. Staff recommends that you certify the CEQA exemption and adopt Resolution P 2020-10. Applicant Representative Brett Engstrom is signed on, and remotely he'll answer any questions and would like to give a short presentation.
Any questions of the staff? And I open the hearing, and Brett, you want to present anything or give us any comments or?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. I'll make this brief. I know you have probably a busy agenda and you want to get home to your families as well. I just wanted to say that Maverick is very excited about coming to Oroville. They've been around since 1928. They operate over 300 stores throughout the Western U.S. and are now coming into California. So Oroville will be one of our first stores in California, and we're very excited to be here. That being said, I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of the applicant? Seeing none, I ask for a motion.
I move that we approve a letter of convenience to the California.
Susan.
Alcohol beverage.
Chairperson, I apologize for interrupting you, but we do have to see if there's any public comment on this item because it is a public hearing.
Got to close the public hearing
And
first.
she wasn't
Oh.
on mic either.
It is a public hearing, isn't it?
Mic on.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
I apologize for interrupting you, Commissioner Sears.
It's- It says right here, public hearings.
If somebody was out.
No
there,
comments?
They have a way of letting us.
Okay,
Okay, so
Susan, turn your mic on, please.
it's still red. There it goes.
Now we can hear her.
I move that we approve a letter of public convenience and necessity to the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control for the sale of beer and wine at the Maverick Convenience Store at 350 Orodam Boulevard and adopt the Class 32 categorical exemption for infill development projects, blah, 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 as the appropriate level of environmental review in accordance with CEQA, and adopt Resolution P 2020-10.
I'll second.
Here we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Flicker,
Yes.
Commissioner Sears,
Yes.
Commissioner Chapman,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Jenkins.
Yes.
Chairperson Durling.
Yes.
The motion carries with 7 yeses and 0 nos, or 6 yeses and 0 nos.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll open the hearing for minor use permit UP 2006 for beer and wine sales at Ethan's Eatery. Staff?
We'll wait a second for the applicant to come into the room.
Oh, they're
So,
going to,
yeah.
okay, good.
Thank you. This item is the required use permit. So this new small restaurant at 2275 Myers, Suite A, which is across Mitchell Avenue from Rayleigh's. There's a little strip mall on the corner of Mitchell and Myers. And they're going to take the end cap there and make a nice little restaurant out of it. Used to be an Italian restaurant.
Where is that again? On the,
Across Mitchell, right?
on the south, be the
It'd be the
northeast corner?
northeast corner, yes.
Yeah, okay,
Or other corners.
yeah, okay.
The applicant intends to serve beer, wine, and champagne. I'm listing champagne as separate from wine, but,
Well, legally it is.
oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, champagne once a week.
You can only call it champagne if it came, the bottles came from Champagne, France.
Staff has no concerns with this application, and Commissioner Jenkins asked us about a letter of public convenience and necessity, whether that would be needed for this as well, because this establishment is in Census Tract 28. And we did inquire of ABC. Their concern is only for off-sale establishments, not for on-sale, on premises. So there's no issue with over-concentration for this permit. Applicants Justine and Jeff Jacobson are here to answer any questions you may have, and I don't know if they want to present anything.
Okay. Any questions of staff at this point? No. Open it for the applicant if they have anything they want to come up and explain or tell us about, or any questions?
I don't need to say anything. You can though.
Well, we were just interested because we feel like it will complete the vision we have for the restaurant and the establishment and it'll help bring in a wider, like, variety of people. We want to appeal to everybody, so I think that's a niche market as well that will help bring in business and bring people together here in the town and help grow the different restaurants and things that are in this area. So that's our vision. We want to open multiple things and help the town grow as well and leave a legacy we have 6 kids between us, so trying to leave things behind, but
It's
that's
a very nice location. That's all I
man
should
of
say.
many words, but I think that's all we have.
Any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I do have a question. With this pandemic, I know it's tough to open up a eatery, and I do know that you do have a patio on the south side of the building there.
Yes.
You'll have to utilize that, of course, but, I mean, you guys, I admire your,
We staged how many tables?
Oh, I think we have 10 to see outside.
Pretty good
We'll have a
patio
canopy,
size.
we'll have an outdoor AC to keep everybody cool, and so, I mean, despite the pandemic, we still see a vision for the town and the things that we want to do. So we're trying not to let that deter us and still, move forward with our vision.
and I read your letter, the food it'll be breakfast and lunch, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's great. I admire you for getting out there and getting after it.
Yeah.
Gotta take chances.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, you only serve beer or wine or champagne or whatever with meals, is that right?
Yes, as
It's
far as the
not-
ABC law is right now.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to be clear
Yes.
on that. So, any other questions?
Yeah, who is Ethan?
It's our youngest son. He turns 3 next Monday.
I suspected.
It just sounds good.
It does.
It's classy.
Okay.
Is that
Cool.
it?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Any discussion? I'm ready for a motion. in this.
Mr. Chairperson, I will go see if there's anyone from the public here that wishes to speak on this item.
Public hearing.
Oh, dadgummit. It says public hearing right here.
Yeah, but there's nobody out there, so you don't twig to it.
I don't think we'll.
Mr. Chairperson, there is no public comment on this item.
Okay, now we'll take a motion. I can't motion, so somebody has to make a motion.
Okay. I move that let's see, where are we? That we adopt the recommended findings for the use permit and approve use permit UP 20-06 and adopt resolution P 2020-11 and certify the notice of exemption for Ethan's Eatery.
I'll second that.
Do we have a motion and a second? We'll call the roll.
Commissioner Flicker,
Yes.
Commissioner Sears,
Yes.
Commissioner Chapman,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jenkins,
Yes.
Chairperson Durling.
Yes.
The motion carries with 6 yeses and 0 nos.
Wonderful, thank you.
Good luck, guys.
Good luck.
Have a good day.
When are you gonna open?
Couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
2 weeks?
Yep, we gotta do our final inspections, everything's hooked up and ready to start cranking.
If anybody wants to come down and help, we'll be there.
Yeah.
Wait till the dust settles, and then we'll come check it out.
Bye, y'all, have a good day.
Okay. Staff ready?
You'll get the applicants.
Okay, good.
What? What were you asking?
Jake's also owned Scooters. They changed the name of it. Scooters up on the hill.
Yeah.
But because of the pandemic, it was closed.
Oh, up at Jarble Gap?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, they ended up buying Scooters.
Applicants here?
Applicants here and an interested person. Okay.
Okay, open the public hearing for use permit 20-03 for cell tower. Staff?
Yes, this is a extension or a raising of an existing cell tower at 2755 Oro Dam Boulevard. It's in the back of a mini storage unit there. It is near the hospital and near the hospital's helipad, which I'll talk about in a bit. This is a co-location of an existing Verizon tower, which our telecommunication codes and national codes encourage instead of building new towers. The extension has triggered environmental review, which staff determined to be a mitigated negative declaration. That's the same level of review completed for the original tower. Pages 107 to 138 in your packets have that mitigated negative declaration. Just as a reminder for any public or any commissioners, that under CEQA, a mitigated negative declaration analyzes a large number of different environmental impacts of a project, and a mitigated negative declaration determines that there are no significant impacts or that all impacts are mitigated to insignificance. If there were impacts that had remained significant, an environmental impact report would be required. We issued the mitigated negative declaration with its set of mitigation measures for comment on June 2nd and had it out for review for 30 days. All comments received are in your staff report, starting on page 139. Key comments that we received are the most important, the most controversial is that the tower is near the helipad, and some commissioners, if you recall, if you were here in 2013, the Planning Commission denied the tower because of its proximity to the helipad.
What year was that?
2013.
2013, okay.
Because of perceived hazards to helicopter navigation. That denial was then overturned by the City Council. This 34.5-foot raising of the tower has received the same objections from the pilots at Enloe Hospital and the hospital itself, but the pilots withdrew their objections when the applicant provided an FAA determination of no hazard to navigation. Our own staff analysis also confirms the same, and there's a little sketch there as well that we drew up. While the tower is taller and does make the helipad approach more difficult, it is between the north approach and the west approach. Those are the two approaches. They do not approach from the south because of wind and the new hospital tower that's going up. And they do not approach from the east because of the tall, high-tension lines that go through there. So the tower is also below the approach threshold and thus is not technically a hazard, and FAA has so determined. REACH, R-E-A-C-H, which is another helicopter medevac group, also flies into the helipad, and at Commissioner Sears' suggestion, we contacted them specifically, and they did not object to the towers raising, but they asked for the tower to be lighted in order to mitigate any safety issues. We have therefore proposed a condition that the applicant light the tower per FAA requirements. That's the condition number 11 on page 42. And the applicant has been studying the issue, and I've been informed that he hopes to discuss the lighting issue with you in some detail tonight. Also proposed is condition number 13, requiring the applicant to notify the hospital and pilots of the tower's extension. And applicant has some questions about potential ambiguity in the wording of that.
That's number 12.
Number 12, is it? Okay. Also, applicant has confirmed that they will ensure all equipment is installed above the floodplain of the nearby seasonal creek that runs next to the parcel. If staff certifies the mitigated neg deck tonight, we will file the notice of determination with the state clearinghouse and Butte County clerk as required. The Development Review Committee also met on July 9th and discussed this project, recommended approval with the conditions I've already described. Staff thus recommends approval with the conditions of appropriate lighting, a note being added to the AirNav notice to pilots that goes out, the monopine camouflage be extended as proposed. All right. And all equipment is installed out of the floodplain. We also have all of the typical dust, noise, cultural, and floodway conditions typical of a project of this type. I am also informed that Commissioner Sears lives within 300 feet of the project and so must recuse yourself from a vote this evening.
I'm not planning to vote, but I want to ask questions.
She cannot.
And I
I
think,
don't think you can when you're.
Commissioner Sears, you cannot ask questions.
Well,
I think she has to leave.
you
actually.
can,
You do have to recuse yourself and leave the room.
Well, then
Yeah.
how do you get the information that I need to get here that doesn't have anything to do with me?
No, I understand.
Can I pass these
Well,
notes?
you have the staff report, and you can always talk to staff afterward, but you can't participate in the meeting.
And so we will also need you to announce that you're recusing yourself due to the proximity of your residence.
Okay, so I will not be participating in this hearing after studying it for hours.
Applicant Representative Kevin Gallagher is here.
Do we have any questions of staff at this time? Okay. Open the hearing for use permit 20-03 for cell tower extension. Applicant?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me all right? I know I often get very muffled when I have these things. Okay. My name is Kevin Gallagher. I am here from Complete Wireless Consulting on behalf of New Metro PCS, New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, which does business as AT&T Mobility, the applicant. I want to begin by thanking staff for their presentation. In the interest of time, I will try to avoid duplicating what staff has already said, so everybody can get home. We have done a fairly extensive search just in finding the least intrusive way of filling the coverage gap that exists. One of the items that was included in the packet was a set of coverage maps that give an idea of what the hole in coverage is. It would be the, sorry,
we have those up.
oh, cool. It's essentially the east side of the city of Oroville, basically eastwards from Washington Boulevard. That is without. That is as covered. The coverage currently exists. There's one facility marked, and that is the coverage with the new facility. So it is quite the increase in coverage. It's about a 1 square mile area. As staff already said, the city and just jurisdictions generally have a very strong preference for co-locations as opposed to new facilities to prevent the proliferation of more facilities than are necessary. We found that this existing facility was the best, least intrusive means of filling the coverage gaps. We did also explore some PG&E towers to the east. They were too far, and the height was insufficient to provide the coverage that was necessary. That's included in all the materials we've already provided. As far as the design of the tower, I know the biggest concern that has arisen is the proximity to the helipad. So we fully understand that the priority there is safety for that. When we received the notice from the pilots that they were concerned, we did double check. For every tower that we do a filing with the FAA regardless of where it is. In this case, they did return a determination of no hazard to air navigation for that proposed height and that proposed location. Given the height and that declaration, if you want to look at the letter, it just kind of takes into account existing buildings, topographies, other obstacles, essentially the totality of circumstances for that approach. The FAA did not require that the tower be lit, but they did say that it could voluntarily be lit if it was found that that would be necessary or helpful. We are more than happy, and we will defer to whatever decision the Planning Commission makes with regards to lighting and design. We have no objection to lighting the tower. The one thought I had that staff alluded to is that we do not typically light monopines, just because the idea behind stealthing is to make something less visible, and having a light, even shielded from below, will to a certain extent lessen the stealthing. So we would also be willing, as an alternative, the design drawings are actually included. Yes, thank you, that's the slide. And if you'll notice, the top of the monopine with that design is about 115 feet, whereas the top of the antenna is about 104 feet. The reason for that discrepancy is that whenever you are trying to do a pine tree, if you do not have that area above the crown, if you don't have that natural kind of tapering crown, it will look artificial. It will stand out like a sore thumb. So we would also be willing to change this to a monopine design if the commission felt that that would be a lesser visual impact than a lit monopole. If it was changed to a monopine, the top of the tower would be 104 feet rather than 115 feet as currently proposed. That said, we will defer to whichever choice the commission makes in that regard. Lastly, and I do apologize, I think I've spoken more than every applicant combined thus far this evening. With regards to a couple of the COAs, with regards to number 12, we don't have any objections to any kind of notifications. Our only concern was that our responsibilities are somewhat ambiguous as it's drafted. If the commission would want us to just require AT&T as a condition to cooperate with staff to ensure that all relevant parties are notified. I do not have too many dealings with the hospital in Oroville or the pilots. I do not want to inadvertently miss someone. We will obviously also then be listed in all of the FAA and other databases for potential hazards for navigation. Lastly, and would be that if the commission makes the decision to light the monopine tower, that would raise the height of the tower just 1 foot, just for the height of the light and that associated stuff. If the commission is a bit nervous about that, I can tell you we would be happy to have it stipulated that we would go back to the FAA at 116 feet rather than 115 feet, just to ensure, once again, that we don't have the ironic situation where that 1 foot causes additional issues. With that, I am more than happy to answer any questions that the commissioners have.
Commissioners, any questions of staff? Or not staff, but applicant?
I hate this.
Your microphone isn't on yet.
Might as well just throw this
There,
away.
there it goes.
we go. Okay, lighting. So you're saying it'll raise it 1 foot, and what would the lighting be? A blinking red light, a two-way light, maybe one solid? Explain that to me.
Sure, that would be whatever the staff and commission decided. The FAA doesn't have requirements that are laid out for projects of this height. So it could be a steady red light. It could be, they have about 90 pages worth of guidelines.
Well, I'm not familiar with it, so.
Oh, of course, I'm sorry.
You probably are, so explain some of them to me.
Sure, you could have a steady red light. You could have a blinking light. You could have, I believe you could have a white light as well. They have a series of guidelines for how they have to be illuminated, but it doesn't have the same level of requirement. So there's a good amount of discretion in terms of crafting something.
And with aviation, what would be your best light for helicopters coming in? I'm very unfamiliar with aviation and lighting and everything else. So, I mean, do they see a red light more than they do see a white light? I'm clueless on that.
Yeah, I would say I am fairly clueless in that regard as well. I'm not a pilot. My suggestion would be if the committee, if the commission wanted to make that something that the applicant would be required to work with staff with the input of the pilots as to what their preference would be, they would probably be the best ones to know. I would be more confident in that than my being able to.
And I feel, I mean, even if you do guard it from the below, I mean, you're talking, what, 115 feet? That's not, there's really no real big hills around there. I don't think anybody would see it, but I'm more concerned in safety for the hospital flight pattern, basically. That's my biggest concern. But I'm not knowledgeable enough to make a decision because I'm unaware of anything like that. So maybe it would be best, Wes, to have them go through the FFA or somebody that is more knowledgeable to that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
May I suggest then that we revise this condition in accordance with the applicant's suggestion to work with staff and the pilots to identify the light that they would like to see and know and get notified of?
What do you guys think?
I think working with staff would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then would you be bringing it back with that after you hear what they say?
Not unless the commission directed staff to do so.
I would like that to happen because I'm kind of curious. I mean, we may run into this again, and it would be knowledgeable to us to know what they came up with.
I don't know. I wouldn't be comfortable requiring him to delay proceeding with his project for that issue, but I'd like to have the staff come back and inform
Well,
us.
that's fine.
Yeah, that would be fine, yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be nice, you
So
know, to
just
have
make
that
that a
information
condition.
available to us
yeah.
as a report from the director or something like that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question for the young man, and of course, I can't find the map with the green splotches everywhere. Oh, there it is,
That's
okay.
on page.
I got it now. I'm not familiar with, I guess, how cell phones work. Why isn't it just solid green? Why does it literally pick and choose houses? Or, you might be one right here on an island of nothing. Is that because the topography of the land?
Whenever you have a map that looks like, if you have a map where a place that's very flat, like Tulare County or something, these get much simpler.
Okay.
And our job gets a lot simpler because you can just put something out of the way and it will work. And in this case, what you see is just the elevation. With changes in elevation, you need line of sight, essentially. This is why sometimes if you have bad cell reception, you can get something mounted on your house. A box, I forget what they're called, that will give you better coverage. It's kind of the same basic idea here. The taller the tower, the further it can see, the more homes it reaches.
Would cover.
Yeah.
So that's the difference of this green spot and this green spot, how much more people
Yeah.
it would cover.
Yep, that's right. So
Basically.
Yeah.
Any other questions of the applicant?
No one will lose coverage. Nobody would lose coverage by this tower. I noticed in
no.
one of the questions they'd asked it, but it said unlikely, a dead zone. You wouldn't have that for any other areas.
No, you wouldn't
wouldn't cause-
you wouldn't cause people to have coverage to lose coverage.
Okay.
no.
Don gave me 3 sticky notes here, and I'm not sure what to do with them. Says, the first one is, it sounds like a question that's supposed to be asked of staff or asked of the applicant. Do these types of installations no longer require fall zone equal to the height of the tower? And then there's another note. There is a residential dwelling 105 feet away. Is there a dwelling 105 feet away?
I believe so. Is that correct?
Okay. And then apparently someone's not happy with South Oroville's coverage. I assume that's a positive for the project. Do we know if there are other cell providers that cover South Oroville? I don't know. Are there other?
I could not really give you details on kind of the future plans for additional facilities if they're going to put something in the south to improve coverage there. But I can say that AT&T is always working to improve the network and reach areas that are underserved by it.
Well, Verizon is a provider, and that's this tower, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, Verizon has equipment on there now. AT&T is proposing just to add additional equipment onto it.
Right, okay.
Will this affect your, I don't know, I hear this 5G thing,
Use your microphone, will you, Mike? Can't hear you.
is this because of changing to 5G or no? It's just to get more coverage?
Yeah, no, this would be 4G. There is no 5G on this tower. It's just kind of getting the current generation to areas that don't have great coverage with it.
I think one of the first questions that Carl was asking, though, is the tower engineered in a way that it wouldn't fall on the home that was 105 feet away? Does it break apart, designed to break apart, or would it fall? Could it be in danger of falling on a residence?
The towers are designed to meet all engineering standards, local and state of California. They take all of that into account, that it will be safe. That will be also, we'll be going for a building permit as well. So you will not need to take our word for it. Our engineering calculations will be reviewed and confirmed before a building permit is issued. Beyond that, I'm not an engineer, so I can't really give you the tower engineering breakdown, but this will comply with all safety and building standards.
We actually today, via email, received the structural calculations for the tower. So if you're interested in looking at those, I can forward those to you. They are out now for public comment, in fact.
Any other questions of the applicant? Randy?
What was the Orville's, I was reading through, I didn't see a comment by Oroville Hospital. Did they respond?
Yes, I did. They did.
Was it in the packet?
They have their initial objection in the packet. And we talked to them yesterday. They had talked to their pilots, and there was some question as to whether the pilots had actually withdrawn their objection. But the latest information and the documentation we have is that the pilots have withdrawn their objection. We have not heard from the hospital itself.
So Oroville Hospital still has an objection on it, as far as we know.
As far as we know.
And the pilots, had they, it says, would like to request or recommend the light to be installed. But is that a withdrawal to the rejection, or is that just?
The lighting is by reach, the request is by reach. And the earlier objection by Enloe Chief Pilot was withdrawn via voicemail,
Okay.
which we have in our records.
I have a question for staff too. If we approve this, would it be a problem with this being listed at 115 feet, and he said it'd be 116 with the light? Would that be a problem? Would we have to change it, or?
I don't believe so. What we would do is work with AT&T to see if we can not add that extra foot if we possibly can. But the extra foot will not affect, I don't believe, the notice of non-hazard that FAA. But if so desired, the applicant could go back to FAA and ask about that additional foot.
I believe we would regardless, whether it be requested of staff or not, if the height change.
But
Even just a foot.
the extra foot is being required by us.
No, they said, the way I took it was if you added a light, it would go from 115 to 116. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yeah.
If they added a light.
But we're requiring them to add a light,
Yes.
supposedly.
Yes.
So it's our requirement, and I would think that staff could set it up so that all he has to do is make sure it's okay with the appropriate agency, but he doesn't have to come back to us for approval or anything.
No, and I liked your idea of a kind of a report afterwards. I'm curious.
Right, yeah, definitely. I had experience with one tower when I was on a planning commission, or planning staff with Butte County. And one of the issues was that tower would fall. It wasn't going to hit a building, but hit the road, you know. And we were told, I was told by the applicant as a staff person, and then I think they also testified at the hearing, is that they can design them so that if it does start to fall, engineering-wise, it would break like halfway down or 2/3 of the way down, so the whole tower itself doesn't go. And I would assume, engineering-wise, that would be something staff could look into, because I know that they said that they could design it that way. So I would assume, I think they use the word crumple, or the beams crumple when it starts to fall.
Unfortunately, I'm not a structural engineer, but we would, we would do whatever that would be, and if the staff would want to stipulate, if the commission would want to stipulate something to the effect, we would be more than happy to agree to that. I unfortunately can't give you any more specific information than that.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions of staff or the applicant? Okay, we'll open the hearing to the general public, or we have anyone that wants to come in and discuss this with the planning commission?
Thank you for your time.
There's nobody out there to comment.
Okay. Seeing no one, then we'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the Planning Commission for discussion, comments. What do we want to do? Change of, in a motion, I would assume we change the condition if we're going to add a light, all that kind of stuff. So where do we go from here?
I'd like to make a motion to approve UP 20-03 under the, hold on a second. To change the verbiage to adding a light to the top of the tower? Is that correct?
I believe that was already.
Nope,
In the conditions?
nope, it would.
Number 11.
7, 8,
It's
9,
number 11, but it,
Yeah.
my understanding is that the commission wants staff to work with the applicant and the pilots to determine exactly what kind of light and then report back.
Correct, correct.
So that is in the condition already?
I can't
that's
find
what-
11.
With the additional verbiage.
Yeah, okay. Any other discussion?
So I don't know if you guys were on the commission, the planning commission originally denied the application on this tower. Originally, it was appealed to city council. My concern then is the same now, is just the safety of the pilots. And with the 6-story hospital coming in on the north side of this, I just hate to create more obstacles for the pilots. And I remember in that report for the original tower, they averaged almost over 300 flights in and out of the hospital a year, which is more than I thought. That is almost a 1-a-day flight. So my concern still is the safety with increasing the height of this tower. It was appealed, and I went to the city council meeting when that was appealed, and they had a better argument. They had a much more detailed, they were better prepared, I would say, at that meeting, because they had a much more charted flight plan with the FAA, and they actually showed cone radius going all the way out from it. And they had the Oroville Hospital's blessing at that, at the city council meeting. Oroville Hospital originally had a comment then on the original tower, and they finally withdrew on the original tower. But, it was something like that, but they actually had a coned from the FFA and another study done. They were much, they actually had a detailed, had I seen that at the planning commission meeting, I would have maybe been more optimistic. But so this has a flight, more of a angle, but this is just pushing it to me a little bit higher, towards just adding a little bit of increased risk to the pilots. But that's my comment.
My comment, on the original denial, there wasn't enough information for me on the safety, and I'm not an expert on the safety issue and the flight issues and all the rest, and we didn't have that available. Today, the pilots have withdrawn their objections, and that's the key people. They're the ones that, and the FFA, Future Farmers of America, FAA clearly says that, and it's in their staff report, that they meet all the safety requirements, safety standards. So I don't have a problem anymore regarding the safety. And the only concern I had was the fall issue, and that can be done with the engineers, between staff and the applicant, to make sure there's a cripple point where if the thing starts to fall, that the whole tower, 115 feet, doesn't fall 115 feet. So that's the only concerns I have. Any other discussion, any questions? We got a motion, did we get a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, we call the roll?
Commissioner Flicker,
What if you can't make your mind up either way? What do you say?
You can pass until the end.
Can I do that? Can I pass? Thank you.
Commissioner Chapman,
No.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sears has recused herself, Commissioner Jenkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Flicker,
Yes.
That was
Oh, did you
Sorry.
say?
Commissioner Flicker,
Oh. Can't hardly-
Yes.
Chairperson Durling.
Now, yes.
The motion carries with 4 yeses, 1 no, and 1 recusal.
Thank you. And thank you for all the detailed information. It was very, very helpful.
Let her back in before we move on.
Okay.
Let's wait a moment, just a second, till she comes back in.
Did you let her? Yes.
So what happened?
Oh, sorry. It passed.
I guess I'll go home and watch the tape.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like a motion or something on approval of the minutes for July 15th and July 23rd hearings. Anybody want
I'll move approval of both
Make
sets
it-
of minutes.
to, okay?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. I'll call the roll.
Commissioner Flicker,
Yes.
Commissioner Sears,
Yes.
Commissioner Chapman,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jenkins.
Yes.
And Chair Durling.
Yes.
Motion carries with 6 yeses and 0 nos.
Okay, the next item on the regular business is the sign code and amendments, and what I'd like to do is have a motion to recess for about 10 minutes.
Sure.
Anybody want to make a motion to recess for 10 minutes?
I'll move.
Second, anybody?
I'll second.
Call the roll. Do we have to have a roll?
Commissioner Flicker,
Yes.
Commissioner Sears.
Yes.
Commissioner Chapman,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jenkins.
Yes.
Chair Durling.
Yes.
Okay, what time is it?
Dawn?
A little after 7.
Since Connor isn't here, I'm going to give this to you. This goes with, those are my, you know, when you have a document that's been written by several authors, you need an editor. Your microphone isn't on. Your microphone isn't on.
Under discussion is the report that's in our agenda, which is the July 15th.
Yes, so the report in the agenda contains all of the previous amendments,
Right.
and it has removed every item that was approved to be deleted. Or the consensus was to approve to delete it. So. And really, I just wanted to see if there was any questions or comments on the previous amendments, and then jump into where we left off with the last.
Just like we did last time, yeah.
Yep. Yep. Are there any?
The only comment I have is, I'm very proud of the staff. I mean, you guys have done this so well. It's so easy.
Yep.
And for me, anyway.
Oh, it's made all the
To
difference.
see what is going on and the changes and keeping track of where we're at.
I have to give that credit to Connor and Wes.
And I just am very thankful for that, because this is a tough thing to do or deal with.
Well, they made it possible
And
for
having the
us.
information be clear is so important. And
Yeah.
I just want to thank the staff for that personally.
Thank you. I will pass that on to Connor since Connor's not here.
Yeah, okay.
I want to say also, I'm a very visual person and I like pictures. So I really like that you put ideas and thought pictures in there because it makes you understand it a little bit better.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I had seen these, so I do like these. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Okay, staff?
Okay. Are there any other questions regarding the content from the previous meeting?
None for me.
Okay. So, go ahead. You're fine.
Want to turn your mic on? I can't hear you.
The size of the sign in front of Red Fly to kind of get an idea of, did we get that or?
Didn't measure it, but actually what I did was go with a typical A-frame because not every business downtown is going to have a custom sign like Red Flies, but what the common size for an A-frame is 24 by 36 inches. And so I figured that's going to be what the downtown businesses will customarily have as opposed to a custom fabricated metal sign like Red Flies.
I just didn't want to like exclude something that looked small
Right,
and nice. And
right. And that one is smaller in size. I honestly just haven't walked downtown recently because it's been blazing hot. So, but I will get that dimension just to make sure that it does meet our, and that one isn't even considered an A-frame sign. It's a different type. So that's kind of another idea that we can venture into as far as the A-frame signs for the downtown area. Do we want something to be added in there for custom signs that meet that height and size requirement, but it's not an A-frame? Is that something that the commission would be interested in? Mm-hmm. We're talking about it. Let's move through it.
Yeah, you bet. Any comments on that? I think personally, the purpose of signing is communication, and the purpose of the communication is to support business. And we need all this support. But on the other hand, signing can get out of control and it becomes a detriment to business. And so we're trying to find that balance. And I think this is an issue or a point where we can add something to the signage and still stay within or out of the concern for the negative aspects of signage.
Yeah.
And so I personally like to see it,
Okay, to be added.
to be added, yes. I don't know about anybody else, but that's
Yeah,
my,
it's a creative sign. It's
Yeah.
not the same as the A-frame. It's
Yeah.
frame. Yeah, I'd encourage more creative.
so I think we have a consensus that, that we need to add that.
Okay, so we would add it to the creative sign
Yes.
definition as opposed to, okay, got it.
Oh, we have a D that's open on this paper. There was nothing D,
Oh, yes.
there was nothing there.
On page 151,
Okay.
151 or 187 of the whole packet.
So we'll add a bit of language in here, and maybe we can have a photo of that sign as an example of a creative sign. How does the commission like that? Okay.
Do we need to get permission from?
We will obtain permission.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
In my notes, on page 150, we're in downtown historic overlay. In C, in lighting, okay, so in my notes, I had wrote at the discretion of the planning commission, but you had approval of the historic advisory commission. So I guess it's pretty much the same thing.
Internally illuminated and neon lighted signs?
The externally, yeah, the C. I had just wrote in my notes, at the discretion of the planning commission. Oh, instead of it saying shall be prohibited in it, and you wrote subject to the requirements found in section, okay. I'm just talking out loud, so.
Oh, you're fine.
We're
working through it all.
I'm like, I don't see the words I'm looking for, but it makes sense the way you have it, so that'll
Well,
work.
and I'm going to jump back a little bit. We ended off at page 143, if I recall correctly, the requirements for residential districts.
The first time.
Okay. Do we want to start there and move forward again?
I thought we'd already went through the whole thing.
Oh, you know what? You're correct. I was going off of a previous marker. Sorry.
Yeah,
That's right. And we were coming back to,
look at it all.
yes. I apologize. Yes. Okay, so we'll go back to the beginning of the requirements for downtown historic overlay districts. And that was where we were going to start off again and then move into the creative signs. I apologize, I confused myself with my marker on an old page. Okay. So back to where Tammy had started, and then the lightings. Was there any other questions regarding the lighting
If
types?
you give the page number that we're talking about too.
150.
150.
Each time, yeah.
Page 150.
Okay.
Package page 186.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I was still going off the sign code page at the, yeah. So I'll go off the
number are we
packet.
going? We're going to the little square number at the bottom?
From now
or-
on, I will go off of the packet page on the corner.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Too many page numbers to go
Thank
off
you.
of.
My age is catching up with me here.
We've dug through this so many times, it's gonna be confusing, I apologize.
No, that's fine. So what page are we on now?
So we are now on page 186 of our packet. And so requirements within the downtown to historic overlay and the lighting. Externally illuminated signs shall be allowed, subject to the requirements found in section 26-19-060F, location, placement, and design of signs and lighting. Internally illuminated and neon lighted signs shall require the approval of the Historic Advisory Commission in the Downtown Historic Overlay District. Encouraged internally illuminated signs include, and there's the list and examples, halo lit signs, day-night channel letters, traditional cabinet signs are not allowed within the Downtown Historic Overlay District.
What if there is already some there?
It would
I
be
mean,
existing non-conforming.
Okay.
If they were to,
Be grandfathered in.
yeah,
That-
update or.
I don't know if there is. I just-
Okay, that gets me back in. What I don't want to, this is my own thing again. And I'm not radical pro sign person. It's just, it really concerns me if we design our ordinance so that a person that wants to take care of a safety issue for electrical, let's say, on a sign, that he loses the non-conforming status of that sign. To me, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Because we're the ones that would go to them and say, you got a safety issue here. You got to fix it. Oh, by the way, because we're requiring you to fix it, you got to conform the whole sign.
And we do address that in page 189 of our packet, under the non-conforming signs, item 1. So it does state that if the sign is altered in shape, size, or any manner that increases its nonconformity, immediate conformance with the requirements of this chapter shall comply. Except for A, electrical, structural, and other safety elements associated with a non-conforming sign can be reconfigured or replaced so long as the sign is not altered in shape, size, or any other manner that increases its nonconformity.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I jumped ahead there, but
That's okay.
we were talking about the sign things, and that really, you've taken care of my problem, so, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had a comment. I have to agree so much with Commissioner Flicker how much these photos help, I think, explain
Good.
what we're trying to do.
Good.
I think it makes a big difference.
Picture's worth 1,000 words. And not everybody wants to sift through sign code. They want something quick to reference, and I think that really helps. So, good.
It's easier to get a point across rather than somebody trying to interpret some verbiage.
Good. Well, we will try to add pictures where we can.
Oh, thanks.
Any other questions regarding
Oh,
lighting? Go ahead.
You're saying the halo lit sign and the day-night channel letter sign and the traditional cabinet sign are not allowed?
No. The
I thought that's what I heard
halo
you-
lit signs and the day-night channel signs are allowed.
They're encouraged.
They're encouraged. Internally illuminated signs include the halo lit and the day-night channel signs. But then it does show the example, traditional cabinet signs are not allowed within the historic downtown overlay. And so we do have a few that I can recall within the downtown historic overlay that are traditional cabinet signs. So if they were to alter those in any way, then they would need to be actually updated to meet
Yeah,
the
they change the
code.
size or, but if they are fixing something, you taking care of that under the non-conforming part.
Right,
That's
mending
fine.
electrical, something that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Would
Good.
that run under mending electrical, or say, the amount was, would that be?
Can he use his mind?
Then they wouldn't
Can't
be,
hear him.
if they weren't altering the shape or size of the sign, then that would be fine. Yeah. If they were correcting a safety issue, then that would be fine. So, the next item on the following page, 187 of the packet, exemption for historic signs. Any sign that is a contributing feature of downtown historic district and that does not advertise a business that is currently in operation shall not require a sign permit. In addition, any such sign shall be counted towards the
Shall not be.
thank you, counted towards the allowable sign area or number of signs for a building or use. So again, this is where I reference the City of Paris sign downtown. That would be considered a sign that's contributing, a contributing feature in the downtown historic overlay district. Any questions there? Okay. The next, go ahead.
District and does not advertise a business. That was kind of confusing to me. So if it is advertising a business, then what?
That was a former business, not an existing business. We can add, does not advertise an existing business.
Like the Grainer's hardware store,
That was
Yeah.
a former.
former, but it's still there. I mean, it's not operating, but
Right.
the sign's still there.
Well, there's so many businesses that have shut down because of COVID-19. Does this affect them? I mean, when they want to reopen, are they going to lose their signage or,
Well, their signage
I
is
don't know how to apply
existing.
this, is what I'm saying, to different situations.
Or would a new
And
owner
that's
be
one of-
required to change the name or, you know?
The way I interpret this is that there are a number of former businesses in the downtown that do contribute to the historic nature of the downtown that are not currently in operation, and those signs are exempt from permits.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to the next item, the A-frame signs, which we previously were discussing. We just added in item 8, signals. And then item 9, not have any balloons. And item 10, not obstruct a wheelchair ramp or violate any pedestrian path of travel. And then moving down to the bottom of the page, C, authority, the Planning Commission shall review and approve applications for creative signs. So we've moved into creative sign territory now, in which we will also, as previously discussed, add the photo of the red fly sign as an example of a creative sign. And you'll notice on the next page, 188 of the packet, there are more creative signs added as examples. So we can remove one of those and add the red fly sign.
With like the red fly sign though, that's still kind of, I mean, that wouldn't contribute to the actual signage, right? That'd be just kind of like the A-frame sign.
It would still be, yeah, an A-frame sign type, but under the creative sign criteria. So it kind of falls under both. But I think more so for this section, it may do better to serve under creative signs as an example, especially for our local businesses. So, thoughts there?
Is there any kind of conflict with the planning commission approving this, or don't we have another hat that we wear?
Historic Advisory Commission?
Right. So couldn't there be conflicts regarding historic aspects of
Yes, so,
creative-
well, it wouldn't necessarily be a conflict. It could be how previously that when we approved the union sign, it was approved by the Historic Advisory Commission here at this same Planning Commission meeting. It would be in that respect.
So what I'm saying is if it was approved by the historic commission, shouldn't it be reapproved by the historic commission as opposed to the planning commission? If I understand the whole thing properly, I think I asked the proper question, or asked the question properly.
Instead of having it the planning commission, shall? Instead of having the planning commission?
Well, I think it needs to be determined by staff. Does it go to the planning commission or the historic?
How about and/or?
And that,
Well, actually, and we also could add that sign to, the photo of that sign to both, because, let me think about it.
Don't you only get so
In the
many square
case of
footages?
a creative sign in the downtown historic overlay, it seems like it would go to the Historic Advisory
Yes.
Commission.
that's what I'm saying.
No,
but this-
yes.
this-
Otherwise,
this
the
is saying
planning
just goes to the
commission.
planning commission.
But the A-frame wouldn't be counted.
Because it's
part
under
of it.
creative signs.
Well, but for signs within that,
Overlay
Separate, not
would
on
go
the
to
building.
the Historic Advisory Commission.
Yeah, but that's not what this says.
It says it on page 186, under requirements for the downtown historic overlay, item A, development review. Any sign reviewed by the Historic Advisory Commission shall not require development review. So a historic sign or a sign in the historic downtown overlay would have to be reviewed by the Historic Advisory Commission.
Not the
Yep.
TRC.
So, and we had moved on to creative signs.
right. And here's where we have that D that doesn't have anything, and we, in an earlier conversation this evening, we had an idea what goes in there.
Well, we had discussed the red fly sign. So this red fly sign is considered creative, but kind of falls within the A-frame sign. So it's kind of crossing into both categories. And so that also brings up the thought of creative signs being allowed within the downtown historic overlay district, and that would be at the review of the Historic Advisory Commission.
And that would go in here.
Okay,
So we could add a line under the creative signs to say that if it falls within the Historic Advisory District, it needs to be reviewed by the Historic Advisory Commission.
something
Does that
along
make
those
sense?
lines. Yeah, some
Okay.
kind of language, because
Yeah.
That sounds good.
I'm glad we talked about that because I hadn't thought about creative signs in the downtown historic overlay.
that's all I had so far, so.
Okay. Then, are there any other questions regarding the material on page 188 of the packet under the design criteria for creative signs? And again, there's great examples showing what we would like to see as design criteria, or that would fall under our design criteria. And I know the concern was expressed previously that it would end up, the creative signs would end up spurring variances. But I think because we have the design criteria and then examples, and these examples aren't off-the-wall examples, they are common signs that we see, but they don't fall within the normal sign code regulations. So I think, and again, that the planning commission would be the one to review and approve a creative sign. I think we would be okay with the way this creative design code is written. Any thoughts?
Well, if you saw a sign of an apple with a hunk taken out of it, what does that tell you? What's that advertising?
Apple
on, people.
computer?
Apple
Did
products.
Apple computer?
Apple
Right,
products,
exactly.
big circular building.
So, that's a creative sign, and that's what we're talking about.
That's actually a logo.
Huh?
It's actually a logo.
They also have signs.
Yeah, and you can see them from the air when you're coming in to San Jose Airport. There's the big, you see the apple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. But they also use it as a sign.
And those are the types of creative signs that we're looking for. We're not looking to make Oroville look like Vegas or by any means, but
No, it's,
I would welcome the apple.
you're providing information that gives us the sense of what we're trying to do creatively. And that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
okay. So are we good with the section for creative signs? Ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay. Now on to page 189 under non-conforming signs. There was the language added that I previously read, that if the sign is altered by shape, size, or in any manner that increases the nonconformity, then the sign shall be replaced unless the electrical, structural, or other safety elements associated with the nonconforming sign are reconfigured or replaced, so as long as the shape or size is not reconfigured. Section, or the item 2, if the sign is discontinued for a period of more than 2 years, the sign and its associated structures shall be removed.
Okay, that brought up the question because we were talking about Kwong's Palace. And it's got a big pole that's a pretty good structure that somebody else could use. So
You just take the sign off the top.
that's what I'm
Leave the
thinking,
pole
but
there.
do we, when you say all associated structures, that's pretty expensive if somebody wants to put up another pole sign. Feather River, not Feather River, Table Mountain. yeah,
I think that, nothing's been closed
over 20 years,
Yeah.
over 20 years.
No, I know, but I think the ordinance said 2 years, it'd be enough.
But my point is, if somebody puts up a pole sign and then they put their sign on the pole, this says they got to take the pole down too.
Well, and it would have to be assessed. If the pole could be reused, but to put up a pole sign anymore, it has to be engineered, the base has to be engineered for structural stability.
yeah.
So I think taking the components down would, especially for the Kwong's Palace sign that's 20-plus years old.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For that, you'd probably want to.
Yes.
Because the structural engineering has changed over that time. But just a thought, there's going to be a lot of changes of businesses in the next 2 to 5 years, I predict.
Right.
Okay, you've got Applebee sign here, where everybody can see. So I got a question, or
Yeah, that's a pole sign,
that's a pole sign.
and it's not that old.
Let's say Applebee leaves and another company comes in, and that sign has become, because of whatever ordinance, is a non-conforming sign. As long as they stayed within the configuration that existed for the old sign with the new sign, they're fine. Is that right?
And it doesn't exceed 2 years of Applebee's being vacated.
Okay.
If it goes, if it's vacant over 2 years.
So if the sign itself is vacant, not you, the business is not
Not viable.
viable for for 2 years. Are we saying that they have to take the pole down too?
That's what this
Yes,
says.
that's what
Okay.
we're saying.
But the pole itself is not non-conforming, is that right? What happens if it's just the sign size, let's say, is non-conforming?
Then they would have to determine if the structure of the pole could support the new sign. It would have to be a review. When a sign is submitted to be erected, then they have to submit the sign application to the building department for review. So it would have to be reviewed regardless.
I don't think that answers
But
my
it's the
question.
past owner and they're taking it down.
If the
You gonna
past,
make them take it down right then, or can?
So as a planner or a code compliance officer, that would be the trigger to tell the owner that they have to do something with that sign because it's been vacant for more than 2 years. And
But what I'm
taking
saying,
that pole down involves undoing probably a dozen bolts and taking it down with a cherry picker or something. So it could be replaced at a future date if somebody wanted to put it back up.
So you would give them possession of that pole and they could use it somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay.
what I'm saying is, but the pole itself is not non-conforming.
right.
So why are we requiring them to take it down?
And we can change the verbiage of
I'm
this.
just raising this for
But
debate.
how do you know that at this point, Applebee's been there for what, 10 years,
20.
20?
Yep. Time flies.
You don't know if the engineering for that is compliant to the,
For the new sign, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
but
might
that's
want
easy.
to put a different
Okay, I'm
size
a
or
structural
shape.
engineer, and I tell you, that's easy.
Okay.
That's fairly easy for a structural engineer to figure out. If it's not, then you take it down. If it is, you leave it up. But that's not dealing with my question, I don't think. The question is, the sign is non-conforming. Does that make the pole non-conforming? So if they take the sign down or remove the sign, does that mean they have
Paint it
to
over.
remove
Yes,
the pole?
the pole is part of the sign. It's
Okay,
part of the
that's
structural
what's
element.
not clear in the language.
As written in A, other elements associated with a sign, is that correct? I mean, that'd be the elements associated with a sign?
And it also says in A2. So the sign and its associated structures shall be removed or brought into conformance with the requirements of this section.
So the poles and associated structure.
So if the sign is conforming and the business is vacated, it doesn't need to be removed. But if the business is vacated and the sign is not conforming, if it is not conform, or if the business is vacated for more than 2 years, the sign and the associated structures are to be
Okay.
removed.
That's what I want to make sure it's clear. That's what this is saying.
Well, and Wes's
I agree with that. I
explanation
just-
helped me.
I just wanted that stated publicly that that's the case. The only time you take the sign down, the pole down, is if the thing is non-conforming
Correct.
and hasn't been changed into a conforming some way.
Yes.
Let's say it's non-conforming because of size. After 2 years, they gotta take it down. But if somebody comes in at 1 year and 11 months and says, I wanna put a conforming sign on top, then they're fine. They
Yes.
just get their sign permit and do the structural analysis.
As long as what they're proposing would meet the existing.
Right,
They're not changing the existing size or shape of the
Right.
sign. If they were just changing the face of the Applebee's sign, it would still fall within that time
Yeah, so
frame.
if they're non-conforming because of size, after 2 years, they gotta take it down, including the pole. But in 1 year and 11 months, if somebody comes in and takes the non-conforming, changes the non-conforming aspects of the sign to a conforming aspect, then they're fine. After 2 years.
Yes.
At the 13th month, they're okay.
Yes. If they change it to a conforming, yes.
Correct, okay.
Okay.
I have a question that sort of deals with this, but it's not directly. Earlier this week, the Ron's Driving sign was still up. Are they planning on demoing that or leaving that?
At Applebee's number 2.
At Applebee's.
Starbucks.
You're talking about
Starbucks number
the,
2?
Starbucks, yeah, we're talking Applebee's.
you're talking about the monument sign on the corner?
It's a pole sign.
Pole sign.
Pole sign on the
Two
corner?
pole, isn't it 2 poles?
I think it's one.
One
but,
pole or
Yeah, it seems like they would have demoed it when they started their concrete
Yeah, I
work.
would
They
have
are,
thought so too.
they are actually going to use part of that structure and redesign the top of it and reconfigure the top. So you'll see that same pole be used as a Starbucks sign.
And it hasn't been
thank you.
2 years either.
No.
Yeah, that's a great example of what I'm talking about.
It is a good example.
Thank you, Commissioner Jenkins. That's a good example. Any other questions regarding the non-conforming Section A?
Nope.
Nope, okay. Moving on to non-conforming Section B, exceptions. Under Section 1, we have added some language here. If the Planning Commission finds, based on substantial evidence, that the provisions of this section would significantly affect the economic ability of a business to continue because of the impossibility of locating a new sign in a location where it would not be substantially obstructed or able to serve its purpose as a sign, the commission may allow a non-conforming sign to be retained or modified, or a new non-conforming sign to be erected.
Yeah. And the question is, did that open Pandora's box?
We can't completely avoid variances.
That's true.
I just want the commissioners to look at it and say, is this a loophole? We don't want loopholes in the
Right.
sign ordinance, anywhere. Huh?
I mean, that's one of the reasons.
I'm trying to avoid the variances if we can.
You're not
But I,
gonna,
oh no,
We can't
variances have
completely
a
avoid
legitimate use.
variances.
But, as long as everybody's comfortable that there's no loophole where they can avoid having to do a variance and get what they want, which we don't want them to have.
That's right.
Well, and this is, it does plainly state, because of the impossibility of locating a new sign in a location where it would not be substantially obstructed or able to serve its purpose as a sign. So it would have to, really, they couldn't find any other location, but this location, would the commission allow it?
It just says that
It's going to
we-
be few and far between
It
that
says
these are
we
coming
may
up.
allow it, which means
May.
we may not.
Doesn't mean it, you
Okay.
will.
Perfect.
Item 3, the Planning Commission may allow the continuation of signs in the historic downtown overlay district that are historic in nature, are a contributing feature to the downtown historic overlay, or identify a historic business that is no longer in operation. So this goes back to that City of Paris sign.
Yep.
Or the Gray Nurse sign.
Yep.
Okay. So it kind of gets touched on a little bit in both. The other sign in the historic downtown overlay doesn't necessarily, don't break the chair. The other exemption within the downtown historic overlay could have been an old advertisement of some sort for a product. Something like that, but not necessarily for a business. I'm sorry?
The modern dry cleaners.
There we go. So, any questions there?
So, how does this get to the planning commission to make a decision? Is there an application for it? Is there a procedure somewhere else in the ordinance that would say to the person, you gotta apply to the planning commission, so that they can waive this or whatever? What,
They apply for a permit, I would
I was
imagine.
gonna say, if something like this would come about, if they were to apply for a permit to remodel or do a modification to the building or the exterior of the building, or if they wanted to install a new sign next to an older sign on their building. So if somebody wanted to put a new business in the City of Paris building and wanted to put a sign up on the facade, but that City of Paris sign is still there, that City of Paris sign doesn't count towards their signage for their building in that downtown historic overlay. It's just a piece of the facade. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
so it's wrapped?
It's what, I'm sorry?
My question is wrapped in the overall procedure.
Yes.
So, okay, that's what I want to make sure it's clear.
And that is all.
Can you say that like Bugs Bunny?
That is all.
Who is our zoning administrator?
Zoning administrator would be Leo DiPaolo, the community development director.
Are we done with the sign thing now? This is,
This is just the final draft. I did receive some suggested changes from Commissioner Sears. So we will bring the full
They're
final.
not substantive, they're punctuation and formatting.
There it is.
So we will add those, we will highlight them. We will bring back the full final draft for approval at the October Planning Commission,
Public hearing,
public hearing.
right.
And so, yes, because it is a code change, it has to have a public hearing and then the second reading, a first and second reading. Then, once it's approved, after 30 days of the approval, it is standing, but we will also send it to our code person to codify it and place it into our existing code.
September meeting, not October.
Does it do the two
Yes. City Council, but it would be a final here, yes.
At the
City Council.
24th, we would send it to city council.
Yes,
We do one hearing,
one,
And forwarding it to city.
recommendation. Ordinance, they have to do.
yeah.
Yep, they get 2 bites at the apple.
Yes,
Yep.
so,
Next.
did I make it painless this time?
The whole thing was good. A lot of work.
It's been a lot of work.
This is where we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the council.
Yes.
Well, it's
Yeah.
been going on you started it quite a few years ago.
oh yeah.
Didn't you,
Well,
Randy? You were
it's
on it.
nice to get to this point, right?
15?
Were there any comments from Stott about that, or?
Wow. Oh,
Thank you, Greg Redeker, Stott Outdoor Advertising. I just wanted to be present in case the commission had any questions about signs for the billboards or the digital signs. I also wanted to express our appreciation for the consideration that the commission and staff has given to the comments that we previously provided.
You were helpful to us as well. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion to direct staff to? No, we don't. It's just going to happen? Good.
I don't think we need a motion to move this forward, so we move to items of report, so you want to report on the community development staff report?
Yes, the next Development Review Committee meeting will likely be on Thursday, September 10th. And of course, that's for Commissioners Sears and Flicker. The two likely projects so far are a proposed drive-through at the old Esmeralda Market and a proposed 12-unit townhome development at 711 Montgomery Street, which would be a veterans project. And the application will be for a planned unit development overlay.
7-Eleven Montgomery,
Across the street
is that
from-
Bunny's place?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, wasn't Bunny's. Bunny's is this way, right across the street from the cleaners.
Oh, where the old hotel used to be, or motel. in
Yeah.
the- Oh.
It's a vacant
okay.
parcel right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, great, perfect.
We are going to continue discussions with the applicant at the Western Motor Lodge for their proposed single-room occupancy facility. There are lots and lots of code issues, as the Development Review Committee discussed, and they've been operating many years without a permit. So we're working to bring them into compliance. Hopefully, we'll come before you with the use permit in September.
With a very earnest manager.
We finally issued the negative declaration for the village at Ruddy Creek, the subdivision out on 18th Street. A public meeting is scheduled for September 8th here at City Hall, and we're confident that the project will come before you in the September meeting. Keeping our fingers crossed there.
How many dwellings is that?
They're proposing 97 dwellings, average lot size of 6,000 square feet.
Holy cow, it's tiny.
That includes an annexation, a general plan amendment, and the whole enchilada.
Boy, that has been around
Is that,
since I was a pup.
is that a local developer?
1,500?
He has owned the property for over 20 years.
Yep.
And this commission and the council approved a 190-unit subdivision back in 2007, and that map expired. So he's proposing 97 units this time. Staff is still preparing the general plan amendment and some code changes, in addition to the sign codes, for updates to state law and such.
What are we?
One change is loosening up the requirements for accessory dwelling units, which we call second homes here, or second dwelling units, allowing actually one junior dwelling unit inside the main structure and one detached unit outside the main structure. So this is one of the state's ways to encourage the creation of new housing.
Yeah.
The second one is sidewalk vendor ordinance, which state law now allows sidewalk vendors by right unless the city or the jurisdiction regulates it. So we're choosing to regulate it.
Good idea.
And then there are some other proposals that we have for tightening up massage parlor requirements and a couple of other things that we'll be bringing to you over the next several months. Maverick should start construction very soon.
Yes.
And then the Ron Harmon mine, which is the city's only mine, is seeking a 5-year extension until November 2026. And this commission approved its extension before and its reclamation plan, and we'll bring that to you in September for approval. That's all I have.
What's the status? I'm so bad I don't even get embarrassed. Large area.
Oh, the former restaurant that,
They're calling the Gateway Project, is that it?
Whatever happened there? There was a substantial.
Across from Cornucopia.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to turn our mics on so we can hear each other.
yes.
Yes, there's about, I think it's 11 acres across Montgomery from Cornucopia. And the city has long had a master plan to develop that into there's been many concepts, a hotel, an entertainment center, multi-mixed use, residential entertainment, shopping project, et cetera. That one fell through.
Yes.
Yeah.
He didn't
so-
perform after 2 years, so it fell through. He did not perform after his 2-year window, so it fell through.
Fell through, the city has kept the money that was.
There was no money.
I don't recall there being.
There was no money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Yeah. I'll look into that, but well, we're entertaining other interests. We do have other interested parties for that piece. It's a great piece.
That's prime real estate.
Yeah. Currently, our Public Works Department has cut down all the trees and vegetation, and this week they are running a dozer through there to just flatten out the property. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Be the,
no, the rock piles that.
Yeah.
the branding iron restaurant used to be in
Yeah.
there. Yeah, Ross, that guy, he would fly his private plane over to the coast and get fresh fish for his restaurant every day.
Oh, my gosh.
And there was a lot of
Yep.
Yes.
going on there.
So
quite a
dosing it
history.
all will help to try to mitigate some of that or prevent that from happening. Again, there was a lot of transient activity that was abated from there this last week. And so also, we just contracted to have goats run along the Feather River levee for weed
Oh.
abatement. So in about 2 to 3 weeks, you will see 600 goats along the levee from Highway 70 to the Green Table Mountain Bridge. So it will be quite a sight. There's some
Oh, and there's
activity
some-
down in that area.
The campers behind the tennis courts are gonna have to we'll have to let them know the goats are
We
coming.
will be moving them along.
Actually, there's a campsite right by Court
They have
8
to rent
of Bedrock,
600. I need
and they
about
keep it
20.
clean. They're out there
Field.
raking and sweeping every day. And they keep it all neat.
That's good.
Can you rent
That's
a
the
smaller
exception.
amount?
Yeah, you can. There are many outfits. I have learned a lot about goats in the last few months.
I'll have to talk to you. 'Cause
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Plymouth Lakes, you know,
Yeah,
they have goats there every year.
every
Yeah.
year.
Every year.
So we thought if this was successful,
I think
we
he
would
has
try
like
to do an
200
agreement.
goats.
Oh, wow, yeah. So,
Okay.
About goats?
Yeah, what,
I know.
I'm not sure I want anybody to. But, what's the term where after a certain period of time, the law doesn't apply to you anymore?
Squatters.
Huh?
Squatters' rights.
No.
No?
Like, let's say you broke a law 20 years ago,
Grandfathering?
huh?
Statute of limitations expires?
Yeah. So, before I tell this story, I want to make sure
You
I
want
don't-
to be, you
I
don't
don't
want
go
to
to
be
jail,
held
'cause
culpable.
what I did is I got rid of about 15 acres of sensitive. Well, I had a 200-acre project and I had about 20 acres. It was there growing because the farmer irrigated and stuff, you know. So it disappeared because somebody leased out the area to somebody with 1,000 goats or whatever it was, and boy, it went, it was gone. I don't know who did that. I just say it's a neat story. Okay, commission reports. The commissioners, what I want to see is if you've attended any meeting that has some type of planning issue or whatever that affects the city, I'm hoping that you'd bring it up so that we can all hear it and understand it.
There's probably not a lot of meetings going on right now, or classes, or, I mean, everybody's staying home,
Probably-
the quarantine.
Probably right.
Not at
But
this
anyway,
point.
that's what I would like to see happen under the commission reports. Nothing else?
Mike?
Yeah, somebody mentioned to me they might be changing the facade of that. Did you hear anything about that? I guess it was supposed to be a rock facade, maybe, and we approved it. They're going with a stucco.
Which
Is this
one?
the,
It's a affordable housing, maybe? It's currently being built.
they're,
Yeah, it's under construction.
Did the second.
Well, I just heard that we approved a rock, part of the rock facade that was on it, and they were talking about, I just heard from a comment from a citizen.
to save costs or something?
Yeah, to save costs.
We'll look into it and see.
I'm sure, yeah, I don't know, just curious on that. That's it.
Nothing else? September 20.